how did you get started? Share with our audience. A lot of people that maybe want to figure out how to break into commercial real estate on the deal side, or how to start investing. Like, how'd you get started?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was going to ASU and I was pursuing a degree in business, although I had no idea what that meant. I just knew that I wanted to get into business in some aspect. A girl that I was dating at the time was working for one of the principals of Vestar Development, and they were looking for an intern. And so she brought the idea to me, and I looked into it, and I thought it was pretty cool, sounding, and, had an interview with those guys, and, ended up ultimately getting hired by them. And that's kind of where I started. So in college, it was my second year. I worked with them throughout the rest of my tenure at college. When I joined them, I knew ultimately that was what I wanted to do. I was like, oh my God, this is cool. Like, I had always thought about the residential side, and I just knew that wasn't for me, but really getting into the commercial side was when I actually switched my whole degree and pursued the degree of real estate at ASU, at their East Campus.
So pre-MRED type stuff.
Yeah, pre-MRED. The MRED would have been additional years in college, which looking back may have been a good idea considering when I graduated in 2008, it was kind of the worst time to get into the market.
Yeah.
But so that's where I started. Again, graduated. Vestar didn't have, a job opening for me at the time. And so my mentor at the time, the guy that I was working closest with at Vestar, a guy by the name of David Mallon, was like, well, hey, if you really want to be in this business, start on the brokerage side, because you'll cut your teeth. You'll really decide what aspects of the business you like to pursue. And from there, maybe you go on the tenant side, the landlord side, in-house or development or whatnot. So started there, and I was lucky enough to be hired by a group called Red Realty Advisors. It was a little subsidiary arm of Red Development, who ultimately got purchased by SRS a year after I think I joined. And the rest is kind of history. It was definitely a tough few years, getting through 2008 to 2012. I was trying to make a go at it, and again, business was tough.
It took a while for things.
It takes a while in the business to really build a pipeline, especially as a new broker. As a new broker in that type of environment, it's especially tougher, right? So, I was in a lot of debt. I was working 2 jobs at the time. I was doing brokerage, but I was working at Copenhagen Furniture on the weekends. I almost took a 3rd job as a bartender, but
so basically what you're hearing is that the grind is real.
The grind is real. Yeah.
It's not overnight.
I racked up a lot of debt. I was taking, credit card debt from one credit card, opening up another just to defer payments on that other one. And an opportunity came up for me to work with a group called Weingarten. It was an in-house position, working on their portfolio of 24 shopping centers in Phoenix, Tucson, and Albuquerque, and I had to take it. And so I was lucky enough to get the job, and I'm working in-house, learning a lot about the business because
it's a different
it's a different animal. Yeah, you're solely responsible for and it's nice because at the time, I had in-house legal, in-house property management, everything was in-house that you needed to really see how things operate on the back end. Because, as a broker, you're more or less just the middleman. You're not necessarily making the, big decisions at the end of the day. So your goal is more just communication, between, client and tenant, or client and landlord, whatever it might be. It was a great experience getting to see that side of the business. And so I was with them for 4 years, and, I knew I always wanted to get back into brokerage. Opportunity came up with Western and jumped on that back in 2016. And, haven't looked back. It's been great.
So for somebody, you talk about a couple of things that stand out to me. I think there's a massive misconception that one big thing my buddies that have gotten into some of our deals with us now are like, they forget how short the deal cycle is on residential versus commercial.
Yeah.
So like a common theme I know, and but I want to make sure anyone listening or watching knows, is that you have to pay your dues. In this case, what we say, rent's due. You gotta be willing to pay your rent in order to achieve that success.
Yeah.
And so you were talking about, like, it took a while, and you and I discussed off camera, even coming into the development side, because I know this guy from, we're buddies going way back on the brokerage side, but like the first 12 months of starting the development company, not one single deal in the pipeline. I mean, it took 12 months. We reconnected like 8 months into the first 12 months. Like, you didn't even know we were doing this.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot that goes into that whole thing.
Well, even when you find your first deal,
then you got another 12.
Then you got another 12 to, depending on zoning, entitlements, all that other stuff, permits. It takes a long while. So
like we were discussing, how'd you, for you personally, I mean, you feel like you lucked into net lease and retail? Do you ever have any regrets? You look at,
we talked about
industrial.
it.
Like,
looking back, maybe industrial would have been the way to go. I don't know. The grass is always greener, right? I do love retail. I think there's the aspect of, getting out there and getting to see these concepts, feel these concepts, eat at these restaurant concepts, all these clients that we may be able to, service. And there is that part of it that you just, you got to be able to enjoy. It's a faster paced business. In the terms of in retail, things are constantly evolving. It's not fast paced in the sense of, making commissions.
Sometimes
but
it's not fast.
Sometimes it's not fast at all. Yeah. But, no, I truly, I love retail. It's morphed into many different facets outside of just, brokerage work for me. So yeah.
You ever, do you take an interest in like industrial? Cause you brought that up. I mean, is that something that you would like to dabble in, like from an investment standpoint?
Maybe from an investment standpoint. Yeah. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah. That's usually the thing that, we talk about this all the time. I mean, we got 5 asset classes in commercial real estate.
Yeah.
And I would say you put multifamily on one end and you put retail on the other, and they're about as far away as can be from each other.
Totally.
So I have zero, and I say zero. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd do a multifamily deal, but I wouldn't be the one running it. So like, we have a development partner, a guy we're buddies with named Jerome Maldonado. I trust Jerome, and I do a multifamily deal with him, but I don't bug me with it.
Yeah, I mean,
tenants and toilets are not my thing.
I think, it's like, where do you have your competitive advantage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's what you know best, and it's the connections that you have and the market knowledge that you have that's going to contribute to, the high success rate, hopefully, of the investment. And to get outside of that box would just be not impossible, but, be learning something new.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, want to catch the entire episode of this Rents Due podcast, click right here. If you're loving the Rents Due podcast and you want to see more episodes, click right here. And as always, stay hungry, my friends.